Hello, BookTube. Very sorry for the delay. The Bean and I were uh, okay. The Bean and I were just outside, and we ran into someone that needed greeting. That took a little longer than I thought because she screamed at them at first because she has no night vision at all, just none. She can't see anything outside. It's really kind of endearing. I've only ever had one other dog that was just so completely clueless at night, but it was a beagle with glaucoma. She doesn't have any excuse. She cannot see outside at all. So it was a little bit of an awkward moment that I had to then fix. But I'm back now with the first Stevestream of 2024 and a check-in about the Steve Donahue Writing Collective, which is going swimmingly for a lot of you. I'm getting emails, I'm getting private videos, uh, but not at all well for me, the founder, the Borg queen, I mean, king of the whole collective. It's not going well for me at all. In fact, it's the fourth, and I have yet to pick a, a project. Now, that I want to stress again, that's not a deal breaker when it comes to the writing collective because we don't have an end goal set. The goal is to plot and write something new in February and March, with 1,000 words a day being the benchmark, but not 1,000 words a day towards something. It's not like we're not working it backwards from a calculation. We're not saying the goal here is 60,000 words, which means 1,000 words a day. No, not that. So I can start late, although, and so can you. Although I want to point out that if you don't have a project or I don't have a project by Valentine's Day, it's all over. Our love's in jeopardy. So I am confident in the fact that I will have a project tomorrow. Days ago, I thought I had one. But the more I thought about it, maybe the more I overthought it, the more I thought it was a gimmick, not a story, and that it would peter out in a day. And then after that, I thought, okay, well now I've got a real good one, something that you want an idea that fills you with enthusiasm. And I thought I had such an idea, and then I realized no, it's not enthusiasm, it's rage, and it's rage about current events. That's not going to last either, and would be worthless to read in any case. Uh, and those have thrown me right back on my back foot. So now I don't know what to do at all. Now, this morning, I was walking the bean this morning and I had the germ of an idea about a little publishing house. I would set this thing in the mid to late 1990s when the industry changed. And I would this little publishing house, I would populate it with people, interesting characters, I hope, and I would watch how they do business, how they go about their day, and also how their business is changed by these outside events. That intrigues me. I've never tried to put that in fiction before, but uh, that's a scenario. That's a setting. That's not a plot, and I don't know what the plot would be in that case. I even briefly toyed. I mean, I thought about that idea. I kind of liked it. I came back and I was thinking about it a little more, and I thought, well, that's the setting for a plot, but that's not actually a plot itself. And then I thought, what about a murder mystery? Just throw in a murder. One of them dies. Ugh. Uh, no, no, no. So there might be something there. There might be something there with that. But I wanted to make this video. I don't know how long the Steve stream will be. I am out of the habit of doing Steve streams. And I have a little surprise thing that I have to do tonight. It should not take any time at all, but it's 600 words, and it's not expected by start a business tomorrow. But it would be nice if I could do it by start a business tomorrow. That's not going to be that long. It's just one of those 600-word things. Any of you who I don't know how many of you might have any experience with freelancing, but uh, some of them come like butter, and some of them, yes, it's 600 words, but oh, it's not going to come like butter. This is not. So I have no idea how long it's going to take. I'd like to do it tonight, but I'm still thinking that tonight I will settle on a project and write 1,000 words. I just don't know what that will be. My own rule, I set a parameter for the writing collective, 1,000 words a day. And I set a rule that all of you want to break. Almost everyone who's emailed me wants to break the one rule that I said, which was don't return to old material, make something new. I know perfectly well that if I ignored that rule, I could start like a shot. I could do it tonight. I'd get 3,000 words done tonight. If I went to something old, if I go to something that's, simmering or half completed or that I had fun writing, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be the one to break my own rule. So I wanted to give an update to all of you on what I'm doing for the Writing Collective, which is precious little. And I also wanted to ask you how you're doing. I'm getting a lot of emails from a lot of people, a lot of private videos, a lot of Voxer messages. That's wonderful. That's kind of what I wanted in all of this. I know that we started all this with a kind of a question mark over the whole thing about Discord or about some degree of interactivity. I didn't want to do that. I didn't just don't like Discord as a site as a user experience, but a lot of people pointed out to me that one of the reasons for Discord in this case would be so that everybody could talk to each other instead of just emailing me. The egalitarian nature of that bothers me naturally, but I do see the point of that. I just uh, but we have Steve streams. If I get back into the habit of back at be comfortable at Steve streams, we can certainly do that. I don't know how many of the writing collective people that will reach. Timing becomes an issue because these are happening what at midnight uh, in Europe and that or later in Europe, and that's not good for a lot of people. A lot of people need to be asleep. They're 8 o'clock rolls around and they're saying to their significant other or their cats or both, "Oh, is it too early? Is it too early to go to sleep? Ugh, I want to be unconscious." I wanted to let you know where I was and also to ask how you are, how you're doing with the writing collective, but also all sorts of other things. I mean, the day started off rocky, as Sundays always do, thanks to David Murphy. It's the last time he visited here. Most of you aren't going to know who he is, but he used to have a YouTube channel. And the last time he visited Hyde Cottage, he convinced me to subscribe to the Sunday New York Times. It didn't require a whole lot of convincing. It's actually a self evidently good idea. But I did it, so I get to blame him for anything that's in the Sunday Times. And the Sunday Times this morning was maddening, almost from front to back, just maddening. I barely read anything in it that wasn't infuriating on one level or another, that wasn't infuriating. Even the stories that were trying to be feel good were stalked by nightmares. There was a story about Flacco the owl, for instance, who, if you Google that, you will see the huge uproar. Flacco escaped from a zoo in New York City and was for a long time living in Central Park and driving the birders in New York City, who are some of the most fanatical birders anywhere in the world. The Central Park crowd, oh my god, you don't want to meet them in a dark alley. They they have been going nuts about this owl, the chance of seeing this owl in Central Park. Uh, and I learned two things from that article in the Times this morning. One is that owl experts in New York are saying this owl is doomed because the owl. There's film footage of the owl is Flacco is killing animals in order to live. He's of course doing what an owl in the wild will do. And apparently, a lot of those animals are filled to the gills with rat poison. That tends to kill owls in New York City. People are worried that this magnificent non-U.S. owl that is an idol to so many people, children follow the app, will just be found dead from rat poison. That was one of the things I learned in the article. I didn't know that was a big cause of owl fatalities in Central Park. I guess I should have. The owls, the vermin in Central Park are not poisoned. It's against the law. So owls that predate purely in Central Park are largely safe from that. But Flacco has left Central Park, they think, and is venturing out elsewhere where he might not be so safe. Uh, and the other thing I learned was something I probably should have known. I should have put two and two together, but I didn't really. Which is that Flacco didn't escape from a New York zoo. He was set loose. Someone set him loose, and that person is not known. That person could face criminal charges, and they're not known. That I can't imagine that whoever did that has not bragged about it on social media. But uh, there was that. Knowing that there's this sort of Damocles hanging over Flacco was rough to see, and everything else in the paper. I think I had to go. I start with the front page and I just read my way through the Sunday New York Times, saving the book review for the end. Uh, and I think I had to go probably 7 or 8 pages into the front half of the paper before I got to any mention of Israel and Gaza. Uh, There were jokey articles on the front page, jokey feature character articles that had to be pitched in a story session at the Times over Israel's ongoing bulldozing of Gaza. Amazing that would be. I had to dig into the paper to get to that. Uh, anyway, so the day started off like that. I mean, the very start of the day was the way all my days start, which is waiting for someone to wake up. I have spent the better part of my life waiting for people to wake up. Pigs, humans, dogs, just waiting. I see them on the bed there. And they move just a bit. And I think, is this going to be it? This is going to be it. And then no, they just subside back into unconsciousness. It started off that way, and it's just been rocky ever since. Although I have managed to get work done, which is great. That's always a great feeling. And I read a couple of books that were better than I expected. That's also great. Uh, so that's where I am on the writing collective. It's just been a bumpy, frustrating day, a sunny day here in Boston, but counting on getting more productive stuff done tomorrow. And this annoying toothache of a thing tonight. 600 words. 600 words is not the end of the world. That is not hard to do, no matter how unpromising or unyielding the source material is. It's easily doable. I definitely want to have it done by start of business tomorrow. But that gives me what? That gives me 12 hours. So that's the day has not dawned, nor will it ever when it takes me that long to write such a small thing, no matter how hard it is. And I'm also every time I needed a break today, the break took the form of three things. Either A, I was walking with my bean, or B, I was making videos talking to my imaginary booktube friends, or C, I was drawing up floor plans for my little book room. I want to rearrange my little book room quite a bit. I can prove in emails that I was not inspired to do this by Mark Richardson's video today about improving his little book room. I've been This has been an ongoing plan for weeks and weeks. I It's been evolving and evolving and evolving. It originally included the closet. There's a walk-in closet uh, off one end of the little book room is a square, but there's one walk-in closet that extends off it along the northern wall at the top of what is the back staircase of the building. So it's not a little closet. You can walk in it, you can lay down inside it if you want to. And I don't use it. I don't have enough stuff to put in a closet. So I don't use it. So I closed the door and walled it off to make the room a complete square. But then I started out thinking, well, you're not using it. Okay, so you close off the room, great, but it's still wasted space. Surely there's a way for you to use it. And if there is, I don't know what it is. I cannot think of that way. I have tried everything. But I started off with that, and then I've moved to how I want to arrange things in the room, what I want to do. So I've been taking time to do that as well. But the main thing is the writing. So let's turn over to the chat for the first time in 2024 and see how everybody is. Rena's Reading is here. Christina is here. Steve Gillul is here. Randy Ray, the Literate Texan, is here. Tolstoy 111 is here. Jenny Parks is here. Randy Ray, oh, you're all talking to each other. Oh, how wonderful. Oh, oh, great. Oh, you're all talking to each other. Mm, yeah, okay. Nat Rome says, glad to catch the first Steve stream of 2024. Yes, don't know how long it will be. I'm still getting my sea legs underneath me for a Steve stream. Uh, let's see here. Randy says, I feel like I'm part of history participating in the first Steve stream of 2024. Well, all I have to do is report defeat. I wanted to be rubbing salt in the wound by now because I wanted my writing collective project to be going wonderfully and all the rest of you to be struggling. Instead, you're all having a fine time and I'm the one who's struggling. Uh, Jenny Park says we must all obey and follow the all-knowing Steve, our leader and overlord. I could not have put that better myself. Randy says, I'm just happy to be part of the Steve Donahue extended universe. Oh, is there one? Oh my. Quentin Curious Williams is here. Everybody should go and subscribe to his channel. It's a wonderful channel. It's hard to know how deep to go into the STD extended universe. Well, I'd avoid quantum mania if I were you. Aaron says, if I have an idea like yours, setting, character, no plot, I start thinking about sources of conflict in that setting and between the characters, and from there you have a problem to drive the plot. Yeah, but the one that I had in mind about a publishing house is a business problem. Of course, there would be sticks in the mud and fuddy duddies at this old publishing house, but the main conflict would the main conflict would be the changing industry. And of course, the way I could put a point on that would be if some large combine wanted to buy this house, which is how we lost a lot of diversity in the American publishing industry in the late 80s, the mid 90s, that sort of thing. That's exactly how it happened. You go to some tiny house and say, we want to subsume you into our conglomerate. We'll make you an offer you can't refuse, an offer that will set you all on easy street. And publishers that have been going hand to mouth and living on petty cash for years won't turn that down. I could goose up the plot that way, but is that interesting? I don't know if that seems interesting. I guess it's all about the execution. Jenny Parks, we had an escaped macaque running around Scotland for almost a week before he was found. The weirdest thing that happened for a while. Well, you also had Grix visit your country. That's pretty weird. I'm surprised he wasn't bagged and tagged. Uh, Jenny Park says, could you fit more bookshelves in the closet? Maybe use it for the best of your faves. I actually tried that on my own, unsupervised except by anybody but the bean, in flagrant contradiction of standing orders from my surly houseboy, my friends, my doctors. I actually tried it. I measured the space. I took all the books off a bookcase in the kitchen, put them all on the floor, lugged that bookcase to the closet, and put it in the closet. And then it fit perfectly. And then I put all the books on that bookcase. It took a long time to do. I was exhausted by the time it was done. I didn't like it at all. Not at all. I had to immediately undo it. And I couldn't ask for any help to undo it because I didn't want anybody to know that I'd ever done it. So I had to do it all over again. No, it definitely won't work for bookcases. Definitely not. No matter what else, it won't work for that. But I can't figure out what it will work for. I originally thought that it would be perfect as an actual sleeping nook. I do very little sleeping. I thought put the bed in there with get one of those circular lights. I have a couple of them that are battery operated. You hang them on a nail on the wall. You tap it to get light. Perfect. Then you've got a neat little alcove for sleeping. But I tried that out, and under no circumstances whatsoever would Frida go inside that closet. Under no circumstances whatsoever. So that was out. I've tried everything with this thing. I cannot figure out a way to use it. I think I just have to ignore it. I think I have to just keep ignoring it. The vegan heretic. I'm late. Did I miss anything about Rambo? No, you didn't. No, the only thing you miss about Rambo is that I decided to. Here, can I reach it? Ooh. I decided to try to salvage this. I just got at the Boston Public Library book sale. I just got a big biography of Rambo. I cleaned it up, and I got all the stickers off it, but it has this wobbly. See that this is all just coming loose. This thing here is just coming loose. See that? And I was just going to put it immediately on the going out pile, but then I thought, why not see if you can make it salvageable? That would involve tape. It would involve duct tape, and you find some duct tape and just duct tape the inside of this as tightly as I can. The ideal solution, the one that I used to do when I had access to it, would be a glue gun. To open up the book and put glue down in there to really strengthen this thing. But I don't have a glue gun, so I have tape instead. That I will try to do that, because I was gently using the thing, and I was reading a little bit of it, and boy, oh boy, is it good. I don't remember that I ever read it. Let's see here. Uh, Oh, for the first time this year, the chat has jumped. Jenny Parks, turn your story into a rom-com murder mystery just to see if it could be done. Oh, it can be done. I've read it a million times. I ought to know. Randy Ray, what if someone at the larger publishing house fell in love with someone at the smaller publishing house? Yes, I saw that movie. So I know. I know. All editions like that seem so cheesy to me. A murder mystery, a rom-com, anything like that. Any overlay of a plot onto the story that I'm describing feels so cheesy that I rejected every one of them. And every idea, it's not just those, every idea that's come to me to add some sort of a plot to this story has seemed cheesy. And I'm not saying that I'm wed to this story. There could easily be. I could come up with a totally different idea tonight that would work even better. Certainly better than this. Rena is reading. I think it's harder to repurpose your book room closet if the bean still refuses to go in it with you. Can you rehome your tech, maybe? Well, I don't know that I have enough tech to fill a whole closet. I know I talk about it all the time, but there's one cabinet that is fine. No, I have racked my brains on a way to use that space as opposed to just I don't use it. I haven't used it for years. There's nothing in there except maybe I think a bag of old clothes, maybe a bag of old shoulder bags in case I ever need them if I move. But otherwise, no. The floor is empty. Walls are empty. It's just an empty space that I don't have anything to put there in storage. It won't work for books. I, I I can't put a bed in there. Can't put a chair in there. No, I can't figure out a way to use it. It's the smallest thing. I can keep ignoring it. It's just every time I do, I envision a major room rearrange. I always imagine using that space. The irony is that if it were a little bit longer, I could use it. And if it were a little bit shorter, I wouldn't even care about not using it. It would just be a normal closet. I would close those off all the time. But instead, it's just the right size so that I feel like that space should be used for something. Uh, Aaron says, I think the characters and their relationships would be the real interest in that story. Well, yeah. Yeah, it would be I would make you care about this old publishing house. I'd make you care about the people there and what they're doing and all that they're about. And then I would threaten that world. So yeah, with any luck, the people would be the real interest in the story. How are they all going to deal with this threat of this conglomerate that wants to buy them out or crush them? What do they do in response to that? But it still seems like a feature story in the Washington Post rather than a short story or even a long story. Randy Ray says, and maybe they don't realize where each other works initially. That's right. I saw that movie. Change bookstore for publishing house, and yeah, I get it. But why would I? Tolstoy 111 says, I must share this blurb review of The Agony and the Ecstasy. The agony is Charlton Heston as Michelangelo in his battle to complete the Sistine Chapel before the Pope's money and the audience's patience run out. The ecstatic element is somewhat slighted. Okay. Siva Brunstein is here. According to the new research on free will, I cannot take credit for being here, but I'm glad I am. I know. New research on free will. Utterly ridiculous. Just utterly ridiculous. What kind of a world are we living in? I swear. It's a perfect indication of fin de sickle. when people start taking absolute prima facie stuff and questioning it. Fine for you to question the eternal questionables, but you have chin stroking dude bros all over YouTube saying there's no such thing as free will. You have blue haired activists all over YouTube saying that if a man identifies as a woman, he is actually female. Genetically, he is actually female. It just it's anyway. Aaron says, if you've seen it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Saltburn. Oh, I've seen it all right. I'm not sure you'd want my thoughts on it. I bet you love it. I bet you do. Jenny Parks. The chat bounced. The chat bounces every time I go to Jenny Parks. Does it know something that I don't? I got halfway through Saltburn before I gave up. could not figure out what was supposed to be happening. Oh, something's supposed to be happening. And the fact that you couldn't figure out what it is speaks very highly of you. No Pogo 537. I don't know that name. Rereading Walden for the first time since high school, and doing so makes me think that Thoreau had an interesting life. Do you happen to have a bio recommendation of him? I'd recommend Richardson's biography of him. Yeah, absolutely. I forget the name of it. The guy who did Emerson, The Mind on Fire, which is unbelievably good about Emerson. You should definitely read that. But he also did one on Thoreau. And there was also one, oh God, I don't want to look because I don't want to leave the chat, or I'll bounce myself out of it. There was one just a little bit ago. Let's see if I can get it here. It wasn't quite a standard soup to nuts biography, but it was very, very good. Let's see here. Oh God. Well, I'm never gonna find it. No, I'm never gonna find it. Oh God. What am I doing? See, this is what happens. Here, hang on, just 1 second. There's one other that's right under my tongue. It's bothering me. But Richardson, I don't know if it's in print anymore. I strongly recommend that. But there was one other that. Oh God! All right, this isn't helping me at all. Here, let's one more thing, and then I'll stop. You can always email me questions like this. But there's one other that's right on the tip of my tongue, and I don't know why. I feel almost ashamed that I'm not remembering it. A Life of the Mind was the one by Robert Richardson. No, I'm not finding it. Oh, that is just so annoying. I am not finding it. Oh well. See, this is the sort of thing that I should never take these questions in a Stevestream, because this is book recommending. It's talking about book recommendations, and that is guaranteed to just commandeer me, to just commandeer the video. I'm not seeing it. Oh, that is just so frustrating. There was another. It wasn't an explicit biography, but it was a kind of biographical uh, treatment of Thoreau that's just not coming to mind, and it's also not coming up in a search. Uh, I'll just have to get back to you. I'll just have to get back to you on the subject, because that's not happening. Um, Here, let's get out of this thing. My trusty iPad, 2019 entry level iPad with the Magic Keyboard. It's an indispensable machine. Anyway, uh, uh, oh, well, okay. Another Thoreau biography is Canby's Thoreau, but it is well and truly out of print. It's centuries, or it's not centuries, it's decades old. So that would be another one too, but that is long gone. It's not the one I'm thinking of. The one I'm thinking of came out in the last 10 years. I think I wrote about it. But anyway, quaint and curious volumes, and two publishing house employees are furtively falling in love by communicating in a booktube live stream. Nat Rome, is there a room for a table in your recalcitrant closet? I'm always searching for more table space. That might be what I'd put in there. You could put a table in there, but why would I use it? What would I use it for? You are searching for table space, but I'm not. I can't remember the last time I used it. There isn't a table here at Hyde Cottage. I don't know the last time I used one at all. Why use a table when you can use the floor? How's that for dog thinking? Nick Piccarilli, just have David Murphy move into the closet. David would need more space. He has a lot of books. That's not big enough. Oh, Christina says, speaking of tech, how is all your new tech going, Steve? I recall a kind of subscriber sent you an Amazon Fire and some other devices. Yes. The Kindle Scribe that I think Jared Henderson sent me. It's a big miraculous device. Unlike the normal Kindles, the entry level Kindle or the Kindle Paperwhite, it has a bezel on the side on one side that is wider than on the other side, so it actually has a kind of a place for you to put your hand, like the Kindle Oasis does. It's a miraculous machine. I have not accustomed myself to reading an ebook on a full size screen, which is crazy because a page is a full size screen. I read on pages for, well, since Deb and I were dating Gutenberg. So, you'd think that would be a return home. You'd think that would be the easiest thing to do. But no, no, it just sits there. It works perfectly, and I really like it, but it just sits there. And that Amazon Fire, what was it called? The Pro Max or something like that. Someone sent me an Amazon Fire and a cover and a keyboard. And the keyboard is not for the Amazon Fire. It's not a Bluetooth keyboard. It charges with the machine. It is wonderful. That is a wonderful, wonderful bundle. It's amazing how productive it is once you load the Google Play Store. It's hobbled until you have that, but that takes 15 minutes to do. I loaded the Google Play Store on it. I got rid of all the Amazon bloat, and all any of it that I could delete, I did delete, and then all the rest of it, I just made one little folder and put it off in the middle of nowhere, so I never have to see it. It now has a functional home screen that is almost identical to the iPad, and it's amazing. I got it from a very kind subscriber, but I keep reminding myself that this thing is it's a complete. It's not a step down from the iPad with a Magic Keyboard, and it's a third the price. So I've been exploring it and trying to get myself accustomed when you have the keyboard on it and you wrap the keyboard around to look at just the tablet, your fingers are holding the keys of the keyboard, and I cannot accustom myself to that at all. I can't get used to that at all. I've been trying to, but it just doesn't work. My fingers recognize keys as something to work on, not something to hold and not use. But that keyboard pops right off. So that's what I've been doing. The only problem with that is that it's not coherent. The keyboard pops right off, right? And I don't know about you, but in my world, the keyboard pops right off is immediately preceding where is the keyboard. So I'd like it to stay all in one place. This thing, I don't have to worry about it. The Magic Keyboard on this thing folds out to the out here, and then you put the iPad in the groove right there, and you've got a keyboard. But when you don't have it, it folds into the cover. So there's no point. I can wrap this around. There's no point in which I am touching keys, but it's wonderful. I honestly don't know with that Amazon thing and that keyboard and that covering. I honestly don't know why anybody would buy an iPad with a keyboard. Why would you do that when it's a third the price? Uh, Although no one has sent me tech in 2024. No one has sent me any tech in 2024. I'm just saying, as the kids say. Steve Bronstein, Steve, have your opinions on Israel Gaza changed or evolved in any way since last year? My sympathy for Palestinians and criticism of Israel is making me a pariah with my parents. No, my opinions haven't changed. No, no, not at all. Despite the best efforts of one person, one person on Voxer whose name you would know, who has been trying to get me to change my opinions on the subject, they have not changed. No, two wrongs don't make a right. What Hamas did on October 7th was barbaric beyond any kind of description. And it is true that Hamas wants to keep doing that. Hamas has said so. They want to keep doing that. They want to do that whether they have a state of their own or not. They want to do that whether they're a legitimate government or not. They want to do that whether or not they're extirpated from Gaza and have to act in other parts of the Middle East or not. They want to keep doing that forever until there are no more Jews left in the world. Okay, that's on one side. Absolutely, that's barbaric. That's as barbaric. They are as barbaric as it gets, as the human race gets. And then there's what Israel's doing. Two wrongs don't make a right. No talk of the barbarity of Hamas or the barbarity of the October 7th attacks or the fact that Hamas has not released hostages. No talk of any of that even scrapes the surface of what Israel is doing. What Israel continues to. I started off this live stream by saying that the New York Times was incredibly irritating me. They don't even bother to mention it until like page 7 or 8, right before Flacco the Owl, for God's sake. What Israel is doing, your decision that you cannot, under any circumstances, put up with a terrorist organization that wants to annihilate you living in your territory. Your decision to do that and to go after that terrorist organization with all the technology and all the firepower at your disposal is one thing. And killing 15,000 children is another. 15,000 children, 9,000 babies. Nothing justifies that. Nothing could even begin to justify that. That is not cheerleading Palestinians or cheerleading Hamas. That's not cheerleading anything. That's just saying, sorry, I don't mean to go incoherent. I understand what you mean about being a pariah with your parents. Definitely, if you want a little Steve advice, I would say ease off. There's nothing you can do about the subject of what's happening in Gaza, but you can hurt your relationships with your parents, and you don't want to do that. Take it from me, you don't want to do that. So you might want to ease off. But anyway, Jenny Parks. So where do you keep your surly houseboy when he disobeys? Maybe repurpose the closet as a mini jail. I'm the one who disobeys. I'm the one who moved all those books. Now my surly houseboy doesn't disobey, and he doesn't know what the fuss is about because he doesn't understand, or he does understand. There's nothing he doesn't understand. But the the mystifying thing to him is that I don't have enough stuff to put in a closet, but I don't. I don't, and I don't want enough stuff to put in a closet. If you look like me, would you care a lot about a closet full of clothes? No, I have one pair of shoes. J. Scott Phillips is here. Sorry, I'm late. Are we still on topic? No, no, we left the topic a long time ago. Well, there isn't much to talk about with the topic. I don't have a subject. I don't have a project, which I'm assuming all the rest of you do. Tolstoy 111 recently embarked on Daniel Deronda. Would you call it her second best? Parts of it I would. I don't know how far along you are. Daniel Deronda is very much two books. Boy, oh boy. One half of the book could not be more topical. And the other half of the book is a great novel. That the other half of the book would be George Eliot's second best, definitely. It's just they don't. I don't think they live well together. I'm not the first person to point this out. Of course, critics in Eliot's own day were pointing this out, and they have ever since pointed it out. Uh, it's really, really good. Both parts are really, really good. So uh, I don't know how far along you are, but it's a good choice. Matt Sheridan, happy Sunday, Steve, and everyone in the chat. Okay, just me. Okay, eyes on the prize. Never mind whether or not they're having a happy Sunday. They don't even exist. Gan Chen. Hi, Steve. With great will, I finished reading Alan Hollinger's sixth novel, and I have to say his writing style does not vibe with me. His sentences are so awkwardly constructed they drive me mad. Okay. Okay, I think we've had this problem before. You rascally people out there in the chat. Okay. The second thing you said, I'm totally on board with. If this is not the author for you, this is not an author for you. I've been encountering that myself in 2024 quite a bit. I mentioned it on camera with Anna Quinlan. There have been a couple of others too that have come up that I will mention on camera in the coming week, where you reach a point, if you've done it with good faith and you've done a lot of it, you reach a point, I reach a point where I say, all right, maybe it's time to just call this ball game instead of doing this every year. Maybe the time that you're spending, the hour and a half that you're spending on this book, you could spend on something else. If the second part of your comment is just fine, and I'm right here, and I care, and I'm right there for it, that he might not be an author for you. The third part of your comment is wrong. And none of this, it's all subjective nonsense. It is wrong. He does not write awkward sentences. If they strike you as awkward, okay, then we're back to the second part of your comment. That's just fine. But if he wrote awkward sentences, objectively awkward sentences, it would be one of the first things I would have said about him 8 years ago when I started this channel. I would have said it in print. I haven't because he doesn't. But if he doesn't work for you, that's the important thing. That's the important thing. Rather than you coming into the chat and telling a critic of 55 years standing that he has missed awkward sentences, that they've been parading in front of him, he simply missed them. That's the thing that bugs me. It's just making me sound like a crazy old coot, as if I needed help doing that. Matt Sheridan. My class has started this week, and we are reading To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. It's great. Yes, I was surprised the other day in a video. The video, the Bookshelf Essentials, which parenthetically, a lot of you have been emailing me saying, "Could you start up Bookshelf Essentials again?" I will. I absolutely will. But I did a Bookshelf Essential about War and Peace, and in that video, I mentioned that Tolstoy was one of those rare writers, those rare and very annoying writers who wrote two great books, two toweringly great books, and I mentioned Homer in that video as well. I said there were a handful of others, and only one person. I got a bunch of emails about that video. Only one person mentioned Virginia Woolf, the obvious third example. But I'm glad you're liking it. That's good. We'd have had trouble if you'd have said she writes awkward sentences. Matt Sheridan says, also, we are reading Moon Tiger and then The Rings of Saturn. You have to tell me about The Rings of Saturn. Tell me what you make of it. That's an author that is blank territory for me. My instinct, my vibe is that I don't like what he does on the page. But I reread Austerlitz, and God, there's something brilliant going on there. I don't know if it's my kind of brilliance, but it's not what I dismissed at all. So it's automatically made me think the same thing about everything else. So that I'm in the back of my mind now, I'm kind of waiting for the Brattle to provide. If it does, I certainly will. I won't ignore it if it does. Uh, Lalit Bora. Hello, Steve. Great to catch your live stream. What are your opinions on the mill on the floss? Uh, I don't particularly like it. It's a little bit dull. Uh, let's see here. Aaron, take the example of Pat Rothfuss and Daw for your story. Struggling publisher desperately awaits blockbuster that will save the house from writer who's given up. Writer fails, publisher gets bought. I was thinking the exact opposite. I was thinking that there's one editor at this old publishing house who has seen better days. Everybody sort of knows that he kind of drinks on the job. He was a legend once upon a time. He has fallen on hard times. He has a few writers that he strings along for a little contracts here and there. A perfect example of what old publishing houses used to do, what they used to be like. They weren't interested in making huge profits. They were interested in nurturing talent, finding readerships, old standing relationships, and the only thing that keeps him in his job and in his modicum of self-respect is that a couple of his writers are even worse positioned than he is. They're just ruins. And he keeps visiting them and slipping them a little, $20 here, $20 there from the publishing house's petty cash, which also used to happen. And one of those authors keeps telling him, I'm gonna have. I know that I've been telling you this for years, but I'm gonna have something for you. I really am. And one day he finds that thing, and it is brilliant, unbelievably brilliant. So the opposite of what you're saying, but that also just seems so. I don't know. Maybe it's just that it's not Vio Fala. So I not. It just doesn't feel right. Connor, was it Kevin Dan's book on Thoreau called "Expect Great Things"? No. Matt Sheridan, I've only had one class of my 2021st century poetry class, and it's a dumpster fire. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming that's bad. No Pogo 537. Thanks for taking the time. I'll look into the Richardson. Been watching the channel for the last 6 months and enjoying it. Oh, welcome to the channel. Although there is another book. It's driving me crazy. I want to say it's Thoreau Among the something. And it's brilliant, but I do not. Do any of you know what I'm talking about? Where's Mark Richardson when I need him? It's is it Thoreau Among the something? Anyway, and the Spaminator's here. Oh, how lovely. Where did the time go? Up down says hello, and then the chat jumped. Oh my god! Here, let's go back up to up down. Mad Link says, "Would you defend your own home?" What is that supposed to mean? What kind? I'm not even sure I understand the question. What does that mean? I mean, if someone were trying to break in, what as opposed to what? If someone were trying to break in, as opposed to what? If I didn't defend it, what would I do? Here's my Chromebook. Would you defend your own home? Yeah, I would. If you mean literally, defending against termites, I'm not sure if there's anything to do about that. And I don't want to defend the home against a barrage of 2024 visitors. Haven't had many of those. Haven't had any of those so far this year. But literally, sure. Scott Bryant. Hi, Steve. I bought that crappy paperback of Mars Trilogy by Edgar Rice Burroughs, but I want to buy a better copy. Do you know of a good one volume copy of the original trilogy? Well, the thing to remember is it's not a trilogy, right? I mean, it works as one, but why would you want to have only those three? Like, for instance, if you went on eBay, uh, what would be the prices for the old science fiction book club editions? Those are great. They're absolutely great. And for 3 out of 4 of them, you get Frank Frazetta covers, real Frank Frazetta covers. In case Scotty is still here, those are why not wait and spend the money on a set you're going to love. Volume 1 is The Princess of Mars. Then Volume 2 is Gods of Mars and Swords of Mars, and then it goes on from there. And that's a wonderful set. I don't remember if the Barnes and Noble leatherbound edition, the one that's in the background of Michael K. Vaughan's videos, I don't remember if that's the first 3 books. I don't think it is. But I can find you. I can find you a Barsoom trilogy, even just these 3 books. I can find you something that's better than that Mars trilogy thing. That is not. If I were you, if you don't have an outgoing book pile, which you should, if you don't, then drop it in the nearest little free library and just put it out of your mind. You can find much better. Uh, I can find much better for you. Krista A, how could we be on topic? Most of us only write to complain. Well, I take any kind of writing now. I can't believe this is me. I can't believe that you're the ones mocking me instead of me mocking you the way God intended. Matt Sheridan says, I also have my thesis class, but I'm not sure what I'm going to write my thesis on. Oh, Matt Sheridan, it sounds like you're long overdue to Voxer me or to email me. I can be of real help in the situations that you're describing. Real help. Uh, Hannah's Books is here. I love Daniel Deronda. Yes, yes, I imagine that you do. And I imagine that when Hannah says, I love Daniel Deronda, the sentence will work with or without quote marks around the title. Because I bet you love Daniel himself. Yes. But you see what I mean, right? About Daniel Deronda. There are 2 hemispheres to that book. The I don't know. I don't think they live well together. Do you? And surely, if they don't live well together, we have to count that against the book. I mean, who else is responsible? What else do we want but a book to work together, for all the parts of the book to work together? I don't know. I don't know. Perhaps you should come over to Hyde Cottage for an in-person visit where we can talk about it. Up, down. I've still not decided on a project. Well, it's good that I'm not alone, but I intend to decide tonight. J. Scott Phillips, is it time for a blob watch? We've got a good one going today in Anaheim. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Uh, California has, I once upon a time, until just recently, we would have called this monstrosity a once in a century storm, but they are happening as prognosticators now point out, they are happening every year. But this, this is something. This is really something. Let me broaden out here for scenic California. We're talking about half a foot of rain in 24 hours. Gigantic howling winds. Look at that. That is horrifying. And that is virtually the whole of California. Some counties are predicted to just be washed off the map. uh, let's see here. I don't know. You guess it. Says some supernatural force is driving the larger publishers. No, that's not going to work. Connor says I'm having that problem of not clicking with David Foster Wallace. I'm continually being recommended him, so I tried his work, but he just seems so self-evidently insufferable. Yeah, the person when he was alive and the writing now, self-evidently insufferable, pretty much sums it up. I couldn't have put it better myself. Uh, he's what you read. He is quintessential dude, bro. He's what you read if reading is not really what you're going for. If you're going for something else, some way to, I don't know, buy a personality or strike a dash in the cafeteria or at the stoner end of the dorm floor, something like that. If you're wondering what David Foster isn't, just look up the chat at the name Daniel Deronda. Just look at that. Everything that's happening in Daniel Deronda, none of what's happening in Daniel Deronda ever happens in David Foster Wallace. And David Foster Wallace not only couldn't write Daniel Deronda, but he was not able to read it. Not able to do that. So that's all you need to know. Not that that meant anything. It was all very cryptic. Ben Pessoa says, so you don't like Orlando. Does anybody like Orlando? Oh, you don't mean the city. The book, I love Orlando. I love Orlando. But To the Lighthouse and Mrs. Dalloway are the books I was thinking of. And I don't I like Orlando, but the fact that I like it doesn't elevate it to their status. Uh, Michael Lombardo says, Arg, I thought we were overdue for ninjas, just got here. Uh, yeah, this is, well, I didn't announce this as early as I could have. I knew this morning that I was thinking about doing this. And I want to keep playing around with the variables of Stevestreams, believe it or not. Despite all the Stevestreams that I've done, I want to play around with the variables. Like, what would happen if I announced a Stevestream 24 hours ahead of time? Would it change things? I don't know that it would. What would happen if I did a Stevestream tomorrow afternoon, 3 in the afternoon? Would that change things? I don't know. Oh, Jared Henderson is here. Jared Henderson also needs to the pitter patter of little feet over here at Hyde Cottage so that the bean can scream at him. Uh, Steve, you've ruined me. I've read more historical fiction this year than science fiction and fantasy combined. And now my TBR is full of historical fiction, no fantasy in sight for a while. Well, I'm happy that you're reading more historical fiction, but how could your TBR be full of historical fiction when you have not asked me for recommendations? Are you picking it on your own? Knowing what Steve thinks of that? And also, weren't you and I supposed to have a video conversation about Wolf Hall? Speaking of historical fiction, I'd love to know what it is you're reading off reservation without any guidance from me. I'd love to know what that is. Maybe I have to be a paid subscriber. You think you know somebody. A Tolstoy 111, the early chapters of The Mill on the Floss, dealing with Maggie as a child, are so wonderful that the rest suffers by comparison. Those early chapters influenced Proust. I have no doubt they did. Without commenting on the rest of your comment, I will say I have no doubt those early chapters influenced Proust. Let's just say I can see that influence very clearly. Matt Sheridan, after Rings of Saturn, we read the Meursault investigation. Oh my God, why? Why? Isn't that like only 15 years old? And is it still in print? I mean, Sebald, I can understand. He is, people sort of know the idea with him, even a naysayer like I used to be, they know he's kind of real, that there's something there, that is something substantial there. But why? I remember liking that book. In fact, I'm pretty sure I reviewed it back in the dawn of time. I wonder if that review could be found. I'm pretty sure I reviewed that book. Well, that's great. That's great that you would read that. Oh, the Spaminator. The chat jumped, no doubt in sympathy with me. Here, let's go back and find you, though. It was a gigantic novel of a comment. Uh, uh, the chat jumped a lot. It jumped really bad. Where are you? Oh my God. Sorry about this, everybody. Having to quit on an author you don't get along with sucks, but connecting deeply with an author is just magic. I finished my Bradbury reading project and enjoyed every single bit of it. Never bored. Wonderful. Siva Bronstein says, regarding the Israel-Gaza topic, I don't bring it up, but when I disagree about something, it elicits frustration and disappointment. I guess I need to just nod along and change the subject. Yeah, I hate to say it. You're free to disagree with me about anything, but I hate to say it, but take it from me. If you are, I don't remember off the top of my head how old you are, but if you're under the age of 35, take it from me. Don't imperil that relationship, unless it's beyond salvaging. If they become Trump cult members, you can't fix them. You can't fix them. You can't save them. They'll never go back. You'll never get them back. But a disagreement about a news story, I would not push that. That would be worth nodding and changing the subject. Definitely let them know. Say, let's change the subject because we're not going to agree on this. Uh, Matt Sheridan, dumpster fire is bad. I think my professor is an alcoholic. Aaron says, by the way, thank you for convincing me to give Tinker Tailor another try. I loved it. Following it up with the BBC and the movie adaptations is a fun experience. Yeah, you won't go wrong with Le Carre. Ben Pessoa, offer the intruders some calzones. Well, not on Sunday. The place next door isn't open on Sundays. Tolstoy 111. So regarding Sherlock, do you like the Leslie Singer annotations? Klinger. Leslie Klinger annotations? That guy should put Michael K. Vaughan, should pay Michael K. Vaughan a marketing fee. I do like his annotations. The annotations tend to get in the way of if it's a book like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or Sherlock Holmes or for instance, Edgar Rice Burroughs, if those are ever going to be annotated, or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or the Jungle Books, if we got an annotated version of that. When it comes to books like that, I just ignore the annotations. Unless I'm commissioned to review them, I just ignore them. El Castillo, what did you think of Dune Part 2? I don't have a trailer for anything like a representative part of Dune. My screener for Dune Part 2 is, I think, 40 minutes long. It's very, very preliminary. I'm sure that it was not kosher for my friend to send it to me. I'm sure it's for in-house use only, but I don't have a screener for the whole of Part 2 or even enough of it for me to comment on it. Let's see here. The Vegan Heretic says, I've passed up a copy of the exact hardcover before. It had the same issue. Finally, I found the big floppy paperback with the same cover 2 days ago. What are you talking about? The Rimbaud book? Yeah, I was tempted with the Boston Public Library book sale. I'm always tempted. You go into the room, you see everything. You go around the room. I go around the room. The bookcases in the middle of the room are more than book sale prices. They're special things. I ignore them completely. I have the prattle. I don't need to spend money at a library book sale. So I just go around the room, filling a basket. And usually, by the time I've circumnavigated the room once, the basket is completely full. And the temptation at a library book sale, with the interns bringing out new books, the volunteers bringing out new books all the time, the temptation is to just stick around and watch all day as the stock changes. So I didn't do that. There were a lot of biographies coming out. Maybe a paperback would have been there, but Ingrid Fitz says, I have failed to defend my home for wandering kitties. I love them. No Pogo 537 is it Henry David Thoreau and John Muir Among the Native Americans by Fleck? No, I'm never going to remember it. It's driving me crazy. I can see the cover, but Matt Sheridan says, I think the last book for this specific class this semester is Tremor by Teju Cole. Okay, I'd love to have a long chat with this professor. That does not belong on the list. God help us. That book, 2023, did not understand what I was seeing with the critical reception of that book. It just did not. Ryan says, Steve, good evening. I'm so happy you're rereading Reginald Hill. Discovered him through your channel. Had you heard Mick Herron based Jackson Lamb character on Slow House on DL? No, I didn't know that. But I love them. I just found one at the Boston Public Library book sale, and I've been resisting the pull of it because I've got other stuff to read, and I don't think I'm going to be able. I think I'll probably read it in the next few days. Tom Brueggemann, is it the Days of Henry Thoreau by Walter Harding? No, it's not. We're never going to find it. We've been through this before. Whenever I'm hunting for a name in a Stevestream, it will not come up. Nothing that you can find on any book search will bring it up. Nothing will. It's the way of it. Street Medic says it's about time. I don't know what that means. Michael K. Vaughan, that leather-bound John Carter book on my shelf has the first 5 books. Oh, okay. All right. So if Scott, I don't know. I don't know if he's still here. I don't know if he's still listening. But I'm curious to know, Mike, is that illustrated? That's the Barnes Noble edition, right? And it's not illustrated, is it? I don't remember, but it would be a better investment than the thing that Scott is thinking about. Aaron says, have you ever written a story without a plot in mind so as to find one in the process of drafting? Why not try that? No, I've never done that. No. Where would I find one? Where would I find it in the process? What would I be writing if I weren't writing a story? I've never tried that. No. Matt Sheridan, I'll try to email you for the thesis. Yes, you should. The Spaminator, Fall River Press put out a great hardcover of the first five Mars novels in one volume for B&N. Looking at my copy now. Yes, Michael Gavon just mentioned that it's the first five. I didn't know that because I've never got that volume. I've got a few Barnes& and Noble leatherbound editions, but not that one. But that's great. That's going to be infinitely better than the volume that Scott had in mind. Uh, uh, let's see here. Ryan says, Steve, did you know The Woman in White is one of Michael K. Vaughan's favorite novels? Yes, I think I did know that. Steve Ronstein, before you turned to cheap wine, did you ever enjoy whiskey? What's better, Scotch or bourbon? Finally, it's possible to sip whiskey and abstain from mansplaining. Well, the answer to your last question is no, it's not. But I've had whiskey and bourbon, and I don't see the appeal. I don't see the appeal at all. It's just not only is it disgusting as an experience to drink. I guess if you sipped it in microscopic little sips, maybe. But I don't drink like that. Or eat like that. But if you drink it, it's it's horrifying as an experience, and it's not just that. It's also what it does to you. The intoxication that it produces is radically different from the smooth conversational intoxication of wine. It's you want to punch somebody. I've never seen the appeal. Uh, uh, Scott Bryant says, "Oh, Scott, so you are still here." I don't know if you've been watching the chat, but that the Barnes and Noble hardcover edition, the leatherbound edition, has the first five novels of Barsoom. So that would be something to get for instead of the volume that you had and that you will get rid of. But I would also be happy to send you the classic old mass market paperbacks in case you're in the mood for just one book instead of a whole anthology. Uh, you're asking Thoreau amongst friends and Philistines. No, like I said, when I don't know something, when I'm looking for something, nothing that anyone suggests. Someone could make a chat that just lists in chronological order the last 150 books that even mention Thoreau, and it wouldn't be on that list. So there's no point in continuing to lob titles at me. Uh, Gan Chen says, I am also reading Rebecca, and it is great so far. Do critics treat it as a genre fiction and dismiss it? They don't. I don't know that they treat it as genre fiction, but they do tend to dismiss it as just a pot boiler that the hoi polloi like. Because a lot of my fellow critics are snobs. Toy Story 111, does anyone like Elliot's Romola? When I mentioned it to my older Victorian prof, he made a face and said she sold out. He's dead wrong. The reason that I hesitated about Daniel Deronda being second best is because I love Romola. Oh, he's dead wrong. I'll punch him. Uh, Aaron says, "What do you think of the Hugo scandal?" Uh, Largely dumb. All book awards are largely missable, except for the Pulitzer Prize in fiction next year. But otherwise, no. This year. But otherwise, no. Skip them all. Uh, IDIC Warrior reads, I found an Amazon Virginia Woolf common reader in one big omnibus and bought it. Started it today, and it's so good. Thanks for the recommendation. Yes, a lot of people sent me links to one volume editions of the common reader and the second common reader. I've never seen one in the wild. I've never seen one at the Brattle. Hope that I do someday. That would be great. Uh, Connor says, I'm taking class on Black women writers this semester. We've barely read any of their works because we only study the writers' lives. I don't really care about Zora Neale Hurston's third grade teacher. You're only going to study their lives. The writing is unimportant. Why would you read? Why would you care about the writing? Why would your professor care about the writing? Uh, a terrible shame. As I don't mean to depress Connor here, but I've mentioned many, many times before on these Steve streams that I would not want to be a student today in college. Not a chance in the world. I also wouldn't want to be a teacher. Uh, Mike Jr. David Foster Wallace was a hopeless Pop Tart addict. Was he indeed? He's a hopeless addict of a lot of things. Auntie Gaia, currently enjoying The Watergate Girl. Have a feeling I'm going to want an immediate reread. It's a charming little book. Also reviewed that. It's a charming little book. Matt Sheridan, would David Foster Wallace count as Dude Brolit? Yes. Oh my, yes. Absolutely, yes. Yes, he is an archmage of the Dude Bro world. Hannah's Books is back. I love both Daniel and Gwen. I'm gonna tease you about this so bad when you're here for wine and calzones. Once Freena's done screaming at you and you've kicked off your shoes, I'm gonna tease you so bad about Daniel Durant. We may even do it on camera. We should do it on camera. Uh, and I have had a little too much wine and calzones with bookish friends this afternoon to come to your place right now. But how perfect to have a live stream. Steven Bronstein, what's your prediction for the Super Bowl? Will Mahomes dice up my Niners? Will you be watching for the suite with Taylor Swift? I will not be watching the Super Bowl at all. I have no predictions about it. Street Medic, I've got fewer of a fever of 102 and can't concentrate on reading, which sucks because I just picked up an old volume of Jacques Futrell's Thinking Machine Tales that I really want to read. Well, your health comes first, right? You know that better than anybody. Auntie Gaia, speaking of Wolf, I have the Penguin Deluxe version of Mrs. Dalloway on my shelf. I need to stop putting it off and crack it open. Eh, I don't think you're ever going to get to it. Why go through the psychic strain? You know what you should do? Just send it to me. I'm thinking of you. The Spaminator speaking. Oh, the chat keeps bouncing whenever I get to the Spaminator, understandably. Let's get back to what the Spaminator has to say. Speaking as a semi-supervillain whose lair is in the South, no one likes Orlando. I really thought they were talking about Orlando, the armpit of the United States. Jenny Parks is responding to Street Medic. Michael Lombardo, any chance for a Super Bowl Sunday stream next weekend? Sure. Sure. Should we do it right at the Super Bowl for any of you who want counter programming? Andrew Salisbury, is that right? 103 people in the chat? Wow. Venturing a guess here, but I think the question regarding whether you defend your home was in response to your Israel-Gaza discussion. Oh, Andrew. Oh my God, you're entirely right. Oh, you've got to be. I missed it completely. You've got to be. Oh, oh my. I'm hoping you're wrong. I am really, really hoping you're wrong. You do not defend your home by going to someone else's home and cutting the head off their baby. I'm hoping you're wrong about that. But we'll maybe never know. Tolstoy 111, do you like Booth Tarkington? Yep. If he's talked about it all today, it's as a source of the Wells film. Till the day he died, Orson Welles lamented Tarkington's lack of a significant readership. It's a little bit confusing to me why he didn't have a bigger readership. I like him. Jared Henderson, the latest historical fiction read was Essex Dogs, recommended by you in a video. Next is Wolves of Winter. Okay, you're taking recommendations from my videos when you could talk to me. We could have shirtless Skyping like we used to in days of old. Street Medic, Jenny Parks. Whoa, is responding to Jenny Parks. Steve Bronstein, I'm 41, but my parents are children of Holocaust survivors, so it's a sore subject. Okay, still. Street Medic is responding to Jenny Parks. Connor, I am being defeated by Gravity's Rainbow. I'm 200 pages in and still haven't really gotten a foothold yet. With Pynchon and Wallace, I'm really hitting all the male college freshman books. Maybe take a break. Nothing wrong with that. Don't beat your head against the wall. Definitely. Why not take a break? Read a murder mystery. Read a terrific work of science fiction. Read Shadow of the Torture. See what you make of that. Matthew Groves. There's a New York Times article called Thoreau Among the Cranberries. Jenny Parks is responding to Street Medic. KMM, the Transcendentalists in Their World. Ooh, that might be it. It's right over there. I was looking at it when I was answering the question. I don't think so, though. Because what I'm thinking about was an Orange Spine trade paperback from decades ago, whereas the Transcendentalists in Their World is just a couple of years old. Mike Jr., Steve, what's your stance on James Ellroy? His writing, I hope you mean. I love it. I think it's fantastic, with only one or two exceptions. Matthew Sheridan, for Pynchon, I highly recommend Mason and Dixon. Yeah, although if you're not, if Pynchon just isn't working for you, he'll always still be there. It bothers me when I hear, it's probably not anything major or serious, but it bothers me when I hear people banging their heads against something like that, banging their heads against a book. Well, there's so many books out there, so many. But you're right. Michael K. Vaughan is back. That John Carter leatherbound is not illustrated, unfortunately. Nice book though. Yes, and Barnes & Noble didn't skimp on the production value of those things, so they hold up. I have the King. They're gorgeous King James Bible, and I have not managed to hurt it, and that's saying something. I've had it for years. I remember when it came to the store at the Prudential Center, and unboxed a whole bunch of remainders, a whole bunch of the Barnes and Noble special editions. I saw it in the receiving room. Was overjoyed, just blown away and overjoyed. I grabbed a copy. I rushed it through the store, showed it to a bunch of customers. Showed it, and then I walked back into the manager's office to show it to them. Could not have seen a better picture of complete hostile indifference. Why are you bringing a book back here? Tolstoy 111. The Woman in White is always my first choice to introduce someone to Victorian novels. It's worked every time. Your distaste for it's a bit of a puzzler. Okay, well, as long as it's working for those people, that's great. Monet Doyle says hi. Aaron says, "Don't you besmirch the good name of Pop Tarts by associating them with David Foster Wallace." But Monet Doyle, I'm reading Monster in the Marsh by Carla Cassidy. It's kind of sad. That's not ringing a bell with me. Matt Sheridan loves Pop Tarts. Aaron loves James Elroy. Ryan says, "Do you think John Banville has the literary chops of Bob Dylan?" He's a pretty good writer. Banville is. The Spaminator. Oh, I can't believe it. Every time I get to the Spaminator, the chat jumps. Uh, for whoever asked earlier, bourbon is better than scotch. I abstain from any kind of explaining when drinking it. Steve is right. It does make you want to punch things. One of the many benefits. Jenny Park says, bourbon better than whiskey. Oh, the blasphemy. Matt Sheridan says, why would you ever hold off on Mrs. Dalloway? It could be intimidating. Think of all the stuff that people hear about it. That can happen. Books fall prey to that kind of reputation fluffing. They sit on the shelf, and I've done my best for 8 years, almost 8,000 videos. I have done my best on this channel to make sure that people know they should not be intimidated by anything. But some books, they get that way. That's why you'd hold off. Matt Sheridan, I have the same edition of Dalloway. I don't. I don't have that edition. Nice that all of you do. I don't have that edition. I don't have the Reader's Digest hardcover of The Hound of the Baskervilles. I don't have any new tech for 2024. I haven't had any guests for 2024. Don't mind me, though. Don't worry. I'll be fine. Michael Lombardo put in a request for my library to get the paperback of Katz's Brothers Karamazov in June. Will there be a Steve blurb on the cover? There will be. I don't know if the Steve blurb will be on the front cover like it is with Crime and Punishment. That was a bit much for me to be on the front cover of Crime and Punishment, but it'll be on the book, definitely. Connor, why are you streaming now, Steve? Shouldn't you be performing at the Grammys tonight? No, no, no. I'm streaming mainly to gripe about the Writing Collective. I can't do this all night, but I wanted to gripe about the Writing Collective, and then the stream took over from there. Jenny Parks makes me glad that I'm not in the U.S. We don't get the Super Bowl. Yeah, it will entirely take over the world. I actually kind of like the idea from higher up about doing a Steve stream at the same time as the Super Bowl for people who just aren't interested. That's kind of fun. That's a fun idea. I just don't know the time. I don't know if it'd work. Uh, Matt Sheridan's. I think that was definitely an Israel Palestine question. Yeah, no, you're probably right. It went right by me. It is so wrong on so many levels. It's so evil on so many levels that I'm still hoping that it wasn't that. Uh, Scott Bryant says, Andy Gaia, oh, you're talking to somebody else. Jay Rosen, how are you feeling about the Epic Norton read along? I know. I only raised it idly, but everybody wants to do it, so we definitely should. The problem that I have with it, the thing that I'm feeling, I have the books. I'd be happy to do it somehow. The only problem is I originally talked about the books and a kind of light, friendly derision of teachers who get these volumes and then start cherry picking. But then I looked through it, and we wouldn't want to read. I wouldn't want to go through everything that's in there. I looked at them and immediately thought about cherry picking. Would that be okay? Do you think if we were to hit the highlights of Volume One instead of every single thing in Volume One? Do you think that would be okay? Uh, yeah, that's my only stumbling block is that I don't want to devote a whole video to the Rude, the Dream of the Rude, or what I forget what one of the dumb make-weight plays is in the thing. I think Beaumont and Fletcher or something like that. I don't want to devote a video or more than one video to stuff like that. So I would want to pick and choose. Matt Sheridan, Jenny, you are so lucky you don't have to deal with the Super Bowl is big. It's big. It's fixed though. It's all rigged. According to the fascist party here, it is. Up, down. I've been enjoying Marjorie Kemp and Julian of Norwich recently. Middle English is good fun. Hannah's books. Who is your favorite regionalist author? I'm on a kick. What on earth is that supposed to mean? I assume you're asking everybody else. Regionalist author? Oh, you mean it? Okay, so you're not talking just about an author from the region. You're talking about someone who is a regionalist. Okay, I get it. My favorite. Well, I don't think you're asking me, but my favorite regionalist author is not known to anyone. She is not on the radar of anybody at all. And that largely is because of the region. Connor, I am sitting in a building named after Booth Tarkington right now. Oh, wow. How amazing. Street Medic, don't care for organized sports. I would rather just sit in my big chair and read. Tolstoy 111 had an eye opening experience recently. Follow a booktube channel that rarely responds to comments, but noticed any comment that mentions another booktube channel is deleted almost immediately. I wish that in response to that, I could say I could just bark up immediately and say, "Oh, that can't be true." But I immediately believe it. I completely believe it. And the first part would be bad enough. I've lost track of how many booktube channels, not just broader YouTube channels. I've lost track of how many booktube channels they just the booktubers simply does not see the comments. They don't pay any attention at all. Would never respond to comments. Just uh, oh, the chat jumped again here. Let's go back to where we were. Street Medic, God, I'm so sick right now. Why couldn't it be one of the children? The Jenny Park Super Bowl seems to make everyone crazy in the US. Why? Do they go crazy at other games or just these ones? This is the one that's broken through. Once upon a time, 100 years ago, there was no Super Bowl, and the thing that did it was the World Series. This is the one that breaks through, and it just gets louder. Sports following in America is crazy, but it usually flies below the radar. This is the one that has become a cultural icon. Plus, the Super Bowl is famous because of the commercials. I would be willing to bet that at least a third of the people who will tune in to watch the Super Bowl are watching for the commercials. It's a huge buy-in. They're obscenely expensive. They they tend to make history. Advertisers vie for those spots and pay through the nose for them. The one or two times that that I've been made to watch the Super Bowl, I have been made to watch it because of the commercials. Uh, Michael Clark says, I'm just starting with James Elroy myself, picked up American Tabloid. I hear that's his best novel. It's not my favorite, but it is really, really good. Uh, Gan Chen, Steve, I know you mentioned A Little Life in your Modern Classics video. What is your opinion of The Goldfinch? How do these two compare in the eyes of critics? Well, A Little Life bowled critics away. I think The Goldfinch is a better book, except for the ending. But nobody can write a good ending in contemporary fiction. Nobody knows how to end a book in contemporary fiction. But aside from that, I think it's a better book. It's certainly a wiser book than A Little Life. Uh, and also, obviously, it's a lot less manipulative because no book is more manipulative than A Little Life. But critics tended to dismiss The Goldfinch. I don't think a lot of them read it. There are a lot of little telltale signs when you're looking at big mainstream reviews in the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal. Uh, there are little telltale, anywhere really. There are little telltale signs that a critic can give you if they have not read the book. They're not doing it intentionally. They're not giving the signs intentionally. But if you've been in the business, you can see right away. Almost always, you can see right away who's been skimming, who hasn't read it at all. Uh, and I don't think a lot of critics read The Goldfinch. Uh, let's see here. Mark says, have you seen the film Spotlight about the Boston Globe's investigation of the Catholic Church's shenanigans? I did see the movie and I quite liked it, but it wasn't shenanigans. Okay? It wasn't shenanigans. It was crimes, horrifying crimes. Do you remember when the article was published and what the city's reaction to it was like? Well, actually, I remember the whole story of that, which is covered over uh, in that movie because it wasn't the Boston Globe; it was the Boston Phoenix, which doesn't exist anymore. Boston used to be a three-paper town. There was the New York Times paper of note, the Boston Globe. There was the working man rolled up on the front of every blue collar hard hat truck in the city. That was the Boston Herald, and then there was the Boston Phoenix, an alternate paper, full of opinion, but with lots and lots of good writing. Lots of good writing. it kicks me that I got to know the editor of the Boston Phoenix only as the Phoenix was wrapping up shop. If we'd met 10 years earlier, what a run I would have had in the Phoenix. They broke it first. It was not a Boston Globe original, but uh, when the Phoenix broke the story, no one paid attention to it at all. Almost nobody read the Phoenix. And when the story broke in the Globe, and then nationally, and then internationally, uh, there was a huge, I think, a huge psychic spasm against wanting to know. It wasn't the same thing as, for instance, hashtag Me Too, where the minute the story broke, everybody wanted to know more about it. Everybody wanted to know who was involved and to what extent and what they did. With this, maybe I'm just seeing it from a Boston-centric point of view. Boston did not want to know. Those guys in the hard hats with the rolled up Boston Heralds on the front on the dashboard of their trucks. How many of them, when they were boys? How many of them? It's no wonder to me that Boston had the weird reaction that it did, which explains why that reaction has been widespread. That happened in the really Catholic pockets of Germany. That happened all over Africa, uh, which is why this story has not been addressed the way it hasn't had the fallout that it should have. Still, even now, it has not had the fallout that it should have. Not all of these monsters are gone from parishes, and nothing like the amount of reparations that should have been paid by the single most wealthy organization on the planet. Could have paid 10 times the reparations that they did without hurting the operating budget, and they didn't. Maybe a lot of that was also shame. You don't get on the books for any kind of reparation unless maybe you go to law or you admit it. Even just admit it. Those guys in the hard hats putting up a building across town, the Herald rolled up on the front seat, Dunkin' Donuts on the seat. Do they want to admit it? How many of them even want to admit it to themselves? It's a weird story. It's not done, but it's a weird story. Um, Jasper Antonelli, I think wanting to punch things after drinking is a quirk of being Irish. I never do. Not at all. Ask anybody who's come over here. I have a rain barrel of red wine. I just get happier and funnier and sexier. Uh, let's see here. Jenny Park says Scottish too. uh, Aaron says, "Ooh, Steve, write the Moby Dick of pre-internet publishing." Well, you mentioned Moby Dick. That was another candidate. Just a few days ago, I was thinking. For years, I've thought of writing a prequel to Moby Dick, and that was on my mind as well. I recently talked about Moby Dick in Bookshelf Essentials, so it was on my mind uh, to do that, to just finally buckle down and do that rather than just think about it. Because to me, it has always seemed rather obvious that Peleg and Bildad shipped with Ahab, that they knew him. They're not just factors, hire and crew for a whaling vessel. They knew him. What if they were on the same ship together? What if they saw him get get attacked by Moby Dick? What if Father Mapple was there as well? What if he was the chaplain on board? I'd love to do a story like that, but no. But the Moby Dick of publishing would be my publishing house thing. I don't know how it would work that way though. El Tel, Steve, what do you think of James Elroy Flecker, the English poet? Keep those abs rock hard and that raven hair tousled. All the best. I don't think I know James Elroy Flecker. Name's not ringing a bell. Ryan says yes. The stories of Ishmael. Omnipotent Poobah. Happy birthday. Happy New Year, Uncle Steve. Welcome to 2023. Have you seen Zone of Interest yet? 2023 was last year. Normally, film adaptations of his novels bomb spectacularly, so this one must be very loose adaptation. I've not seen it yet. The Spaminator, I couldn't help but notice that you implied that bourbon isn't real whiskey, Jenny. Rena's reading, did you ever look up the Harlequin writing requirements? Maybe writing a category romance might act like a palate cleanser the way reading them does. I didn't look them up, but I mean to. That was not idle talk. That was Arena's referring to a live stream I did with Sarah at the Bookish Knitter, where we talked about writing for Harlequin. They have an open door for that sort of thing, and what a thrill that would be to write. What if they accepted? That would be incredible. That reading guy, what a Stevestream without me. Yes, here we are. We can't stay forever. Rena's readings got me thinking. What about that as a writing project? Well, that's something. Go and also recently, Aaron Facer also dropped a penny, got me thinking in a message that he sent me in response to a recent video where I was talking about David Irving, uh, and saying that I just find him fascinating. I find the subject fascinating, soiling but fascinating. And Aaron out of it just made a simple suggestion. I hadn't even thought of it. Said, "Why don't I write Irving's biography?" I haven't been able to stop thinking about that. Just have not been able to do that. Let's see here. Uh, where are we? Street Medic. Steve, your name should not only be on the front cover, it should be in bigger print and above Dostoevsky's. Gola Muad'Dib. Hey, Steve, I'm super late. Any luck picking a story to write? Not so far. Not so far. I'm hoping, but not so far. Jenny Parks, we Celts make it better as responding to the Spaminator. Brett Sicardi, picking and choosing is why we love this channel. Be our guide. Oh, ain't that sweet? Andrew Salisbury, where'd you go, Andrew? You're not a troublemaker. Why did the chat jump when I got to you? You're not a troublemaker. It's the Spaminator who's a troublemaker. Oh, there you are. Have you received a reader's copy of Eric Larson's new book, The Demon of Unrest? I have an e-copy. I have an e-galley. I always tell publicists that's great because I like to read on my e-reader, very much like to read electronically. But I'm always awkward doing this. I haven't really got into the point of doing this, but I always want to say to publicists, I've started to say to them, this is just fine, but if you send me a galley, I'll hold it up in front of 1,000 diehard readers. It's to your own benefit. It's to the benefit of the book for you to send me a print copy. It's not me being grabby. It's that it'll benefit the book. I'll hold it up to an audience of readers, real readers. So I'm hoping that will happen there with a whole bunch of books. There was one book that I was expecting last week. It has not arrived. Oh my God, you people are going to go to conniptions when you see it. I'm going to go to conniptions when I see it. It'll guaranteed to be my first Steve Squeal of the year, but I haven't got it yet. Hoping it comes tomorrow. The Bookish Knitter. Was just mentioning you. I'm just joining. Hello all. Andy Guy says, I'm just watching to see Taylor Swift endorse Joe Biden since so many people are convinced that's what she's going to do. I doubt she does that. Jenny Parks responding to the Bookish Knitter. Anti-Guy has the Super Bowl. I mean, yes. Tolstoy 111. I rarely read new fiction, but I've been thinking back. I recall Philip Roth's The Plot Against America as a feebly imagined piece of hack work. Is my memory accurate? Your memory is accurate. Jay Nicole, what constitutes a good ending? Would you provide some good examples of books that with a good ending? Paris Trout. Pretty much everything that Pete Dexter wrote, even though he's forgotten. The Last Samurai. Housekeeping by Marilyn Robinson. Maybe not all of her books, but Housekeeping definitely. I'm not saying that it has to be a happy ending, but the book has to know that it's ending. The story has to know that it's ending. But most of them, no. The story just stops. It just stops. Let's see here. Jack Hanlon. Hi, Steve. I'm reading Sense and Sensibility right now. Once done, I'll be halfway through one of my reading projects. Is that reading project to read all of Jane Austen? J. Scott Phillips. I've always loved the Super Bowl commercials, but in recent years they are collected into YouTube videos, so no need to waste a whole Sunday on football anymore. Oh, that's true, isn't it? You don't need to watch the game to see the commercials. They'll be collected that night. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that's true. The Spaminator, the Celts make it better. Okay. Aaron, Kobo released statistics of the most finished books of the year and the average percentage read before quitting. Goldfinch was high on the list of books people didn't finish the year it came out. Yeah, I don't doubt that. And I do a lot of people who didn't finish it were critics who then reviewed it. Anti-Gaia, I don't think I've read anything by Roth that didn't either disgust or bore me. Agreed. Street Medic, when the commercials are more interesting than the game. Yeah. Jenny Parks, the only thing the French do better than others is condescension and contempt. Well, that's not entirely true, is it? Can we think of other things that the French do better other than condescension and contempt? Well, in the modeling world, I can't really speak for the women, but the men are more attractive than anyone outside of Southern Italy. French hospitality. I loved French hospitality. There was no apartment I was not willing that I was not invited to come on in, bring the dogs, the cats will disappear under the bed. You can sleep on the couch. Let's talk all night. There's that. Hospitality, definitely. I had when I was in the times that I've been in France, all over France, I had retirees, I had absolute dirt poor, living on a shoestring, poverty students. Everybody pulled out the stops for the guest. There's got to be a bottle of wine in the back of the cupboard, or we'll go out and get something. There's got to be something, sandwiches we can get, or something like that. And it was charming. It was absolutely charming. It was usually my motto when I was traveling that I pay. Uh, the hospitality, the warm hospitality is fine, but that is more than enough for me. The last thing I need is to compound that with incurring debt. Some of the people that I dealt with, especially students in Paris, were really grateful for that. No, it's not just condescension and contempt at all. Uh, that reading guy. Wait, does that mean our e-reader is collecting our reading data and sending it back to the company? It certainly is. It certainly is. Yes, not just Kobo. Street medic. I would rather deal with someone who's stoned than someone who's drunk. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Tolstoy 111. I'll give Roth the benefit of the doubt that Portnoy's complaint was worthwhile. I've not read it. Your benefit of the doubt would be misplaced. Hannah's books, Whale's perspective of Moby Dick. That was almost done. That was almost done. Sterling Hayden's book Voyage is all. There are parts of it that are almost that. But no, no, I couldn't do a whale's perspective any more than anyone else could. No, it would be the voyage that dismasted Ahab. That would be the climax of the book. They would chase whales and have adventures, including some on land. And then I would, in my book, I would intentionally mirror the setup of the end of Moby Dick, where the book is moving along and the Pequod is looking for the whale and having all sorts of adventures. And then there's the chase the first day. The chase the end of the book is just a whirlwind with an ounce of fat on it, and then it ends. And it's so excuse me. And my book would echo that. The final 3 days would climax in Ahab getting maimed. Uh, Matt Sheridan, James Elroy is a wonderful writer. However, he is also certifiably insane. He is indeed. He is indeed. Why I'm in complete agreement with the chat tonight. It's very weird. Ordinarily, I'm fighting all of you all the time, but I'm seeing lots of stuff that I'm really enjoying. Mark says I should not have referred to those crimes as shenanigans. I think sometimes I treat it with flippant humor in order to cope with my own experiences. No need to apologize, but we use that word too much. People say the same thing. They say, Donald Trump shenanigans. There are no shenanigans connected with Donald Trump. Same thing with this. This harmless little trouble is what I think of shenanigans as, and this was a big story. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about you. You mentioned your own experiences, and I'm thinking about my little soliloquy earlier on about the whole thing. I'm imagining that there are a few people in the chat who are wondering. Never affected me. Never affected my parish at all. Pure luck, just pure luck. It never affected my parish at all. But one very old priest, sweet old man, almost a saint. The light practically shone out of him instead of through him. And two workaday priests who, they weren't anything like him in terms of saintliness or eloquence or learning. But they were there in your house if you had somebody sick. They were there amongst your neighbors getting food together if you needed it. They were doing the church's work, whether the church cared about it or not. They were real Christians, and they were horrified. The head priest of the parish was gone before I was old enough or self confident enough to bring the subject up. So I never know if he knew anything about it or if he talked about it or what he thought about it. But the other two priests, I knew them in their old age, and they were horrified, absolutely horrified. Uh, but anyway, Martin S. I saw Pogue Mahone topped your best of 2022 list. I read it and enjoyed it greatly. My list will not let you down. I'm sure that's what your point was. Connor, I am being forced to read a bunch of literary theory for school. What is some literary criticism that's actually enjoyable? There isn't any. It's dumb. It's it's not as bad as most theology, and of course, neither it nor theology is anywhere near as bad as most philosophy. But it's a waste of time. Unfortunately, you're not going to have to read it. You're not just going to have to read it. You're also going to have to parrot it. I feel sorry for you. I really do. I wish that weren't the case. Uh, Chaco says, "Hi, Steve and Frida." Frida is back. Let's see. uh, let's see here. Tolstoy 111. Yesterday was the 150th anniversary of the birth of Gertrude Stein. Do you like any of her work? Nope. Alan, how about a feminist retelling of Moby Dick? You'd be guaranteed a favorable review in The Guardian, at least. Well, that was Ahab's Wife by Sarah Jeter Naslund, where Ahab gets one mention. That was as close as you get to that. I'm not, I wouldn't dream of it. Jasper Antonelli, your streaming space is looking super cozy today. Well, it's the same old space. It's the window. It's a fairly quiet evening. It's blankets, most of which were made for me by little old ladies that are long gone. And there's the aforementioned bee. Sound asleep there. Let's see here. Oh, that reading guy. How do you know when your stories are done and that it is appropriate to stop? Well, in an ideal world, in the old world that I'm thinking of, in the John Cheever world, you'd know that it was over because you'd have plotted it. So you would get to the end of the plot. You would get to the end of the story. That's how you'd know. You wouldn't be groping around in the dark. Was this done yet or not? It would be a thing that you created. In the post John Cheever world, I have no idea. I have no idea how you'd know. Street Medic, wondering if I should watch the remake of Shogun. I can't really advise you. Out of sheer curiosity, I'm sure that you will end up watching it. Jack Hanlon, I got a new basic Kindle for Christmas. I keep hitting power button and turning it off. Any tips? I know. I do the same things. Grix over on his channel, he swears up and down that the thing is not heavy enough to turn off when you rest it in your hand. That you can rest it right on your hand and you won't turn off the power button. But he's wrong. He's just experientially wrong. It is possible. It is. I do it all the time with my Kindle Basic. There is a solution. There are two tips to do. One is to train yourself in the way that you hold it, so that your finger is wide of the power button on either side. Takes a bit of getting used to. It doesn't feel completely natural, but you will find once you do that 10 or 15 times that your hand will just assume that position and you won't have to think about it anymore. And the other solution is to get a case for it. If you put a case on a basic Kindle, you're holding the case, so you will never even come close to bothering the power button. That the second one feels rotten because that's what Amazon wants you to do. They want you to buy a case and accessories. Jack Hanlon says, yes, a Jane Austen reading project. Derek Green says, what do you think of Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett? I just finished it. Yeah, I know who wrote Pillars of the Earth. Thanks. This is almost a have you read question, isn't it? I liked it. I liked it a lot. I really, really enjoyed it. David Sloan. Hello, Steve. Reading Fagel's Odyssey right now. Well, it was in the front of the running for me. I reread the Odyssey every August. It was in the front of the running for me until I found a big hardcover illustrated Odyssey, the Ryu Odyssey. So I'll be reading that. I'm pretty sure I'll be reading that for my Odyssey in August. Ingrid Fitz, when we went to France 10 years ago, everyone was friendly and helpful. We were told that they would be rude, and that was not true at all for us. It was not true for me either. I was told by I was making my way west, and I was told by virtually everybody I stayed with and met and knew and talked to in Germany that rudeness is all I would encounter in France, and I never did. Not ever. Not in the south, not in the middle of the country, not in Paris itself, not ever, not anywhere. Went all over France 5 or 6 times. Never encountered anything but wide open arms. The kind of hospitality, actually, the kind of hospitality that reminded me of Iran. It's one of the closest comparisons that I can think of. In Iran, the guest is God. God come to earth. He's God come to earth. Which, keep in mind, in ancient Greece, that was reality. It was the guest could be a god. In Iran, the guest is God. Anything at all. My wife and I have this room on the south side of the house because it's really cool at night. But by no means will we sleep there. If you are our guest, you will of course have that room. All this stuff that we've been waiting for, all this food that we've been that we're apportioning for the next week. We're going to eat it all tonight. because you're here. That was another case where I had to spend rather liberally. In Iran, it was much harder to spend rather liberally. My hosts were adamantly against it. My male hosts were adamantly against it. Then their wives would find me and say, "If you absolutely insist, I will make it happen. I will of course allow this." And that was what I was thinking of Iran when I was in France, because it's the exact same kind of absolutely instinctive, immediate, wide open hospitality, wide open friendship. A little bit of an odd comparison there, but anyway. Monet Doyle says, "Nice stream." Well, thank you. Oh, now the stream has jumped. The stream is misbehaving. It's not nice anymore. Jasper Antonelli says, "Being around very drunk people is one of the few things that makes me rage." Yeah, I don't do it anymore. I can't imagine drinking out in the world. I can't imagine going to a bar. I can't imagine going to a party. I and so and that I assume is what the kind of thing that you're talking about is strangers. I'm perfectly happy to be around very drunk people if they're right here in this room. Perfectly happy to do that. Street medic, yeah, the French have an undeserved reputation for being rude and condescending, but I've never seen that on any of my trips there. Matt Sheridan, that's why I avoid going out for New Year's or St. Patty's. Way too many loud and obnoxious drunks. Yes, yes. If you're not familiar with it, feel free to Google the St. Patrick's Day parade in South Boston. That reading guy, have you seen the new Dune Part 2 movie? No, this was already asked in the stream. No, I have not. I have a very partial screener, just a kind of a like when a publisher sends a sample of a chapter of a book. I have not seen. I certainly have not seen the official screener. I don't think there is one yet. No, I have not. Uh-uh. Aaron, if we're too agreeable, The Passage is a good book. The Passage is not a good book. Okay, don't get me started about Justin Cronin. Uh, J. Scott Phillips, how about you write your Moby Dick prequel, but no Ahab in it? Instead, it's Moby Dick's vengeance against Meg. No, Ahab would be in it. The question would be, what is Ahab like? That is the question I think that I find most fascinating at the very beginning of Moby Dick. What hints do we get of what Ahab was like before this? First of all, how did the incident happen? He must have been in a whaleboat, right? He must have been out. He must have lowered with the harpooners. That's the only way that it could have happened. And then what? So was he in the water, or did Moby Dick attack his whaling boat, his harpooning boat, and not take it on a Nantucket sleigh ride, but instead turn and attack the harpoon boat and get him somehow? How did it happen? Uh, but what was he like before then? He had a wife. I find it fascinating. Anyway, Jordan Knowles, I found housekeeping an intolerable slog for most of my time with it, but somehow the ending reconfigured my view entirely. You should read it again. It's not an intolerable slog at any point. And if the reconfiguration predisposes you, maybe you should read it again. Hope it doesn't put you off the author. That's for sure. Scott Bryant, would being a well-known book critic help or hurt one's case when sending a book to a publisher for consideration for publishing a book outside of criticism? I mean, just curious. I don't think it'd make a difference one way or another. I don't. I don't. I don't think the publishing industry would care. I don't think it would make a difference. I wouldn't. It'd be a question of getting an agent, and the agent would know that it wouldn't be being a well-known book critic, though. It would be having a BookTube channel, being on YouTube. That might make a difference. I'd be able to say, I can do a lot more publicizing of this book than your average author can. But that's it. I don't think they care about the critic part. Connor, damn, Steve, I'm real excited about the rest of college nights. Make the most of it, is what I have to say. Work hard, hold your nose, and make the most of it. But well, I didn't enjoy the experience much anyway, but when I was at college, when I was an undergraduate, there was a lot to enjoy. I just didn't like it for I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to get out of college. And classes were the very last thing. They were the thing I didn't want. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to get to know people. I wanted to have lots of fun. Uh, and I wanted to do lots and lots of extracurricular reading where I got to pick the brains of particular professors. But this business of, ugh, man, The rest of it, no, not at all. I remember, I forget the class. This was eons ago, of course, but I forget the class. But at one point, I was taking a class, and I went in, chatted with everybody. The professor showed up late, of course, and then talked for a minute, and said, "Now, what I'd like you to do is put your books and papers away. We're going to have a pop quiz." And I said out loud before I could stop myself. I said out loud, "What is this?" I used an adjective. I said, "What is this?" The adjective eighth grade. And his head just snapped. Everybody's head snapped. I was like, "That's." He said, "No, I think I want to do this." And that's what I mean. You're right there. You're in his power. If I said, "Well, you might want to do it, but I don't," who knows how that would have affected my standing in class? It's just, but all the stuff outside of the classroom. Mm. Mm. Matt Sheridan, I'm thinking about writing a story of Rambo, post poetry career as a mercenary. Yeah, what's he like there? And if you did that, would the poetry filter in at all? Uh, Would it be there at all? Or would it really be about a completely different person? Uh, that reading guy, have we gotten a blob watch yet? We did get a blob watch. Scotty's been here a couple of times. We did get a blob watch, but the blob watch that I did was California, which is currently getting an unbelievably massively powerful storm, a gigantic bucket load of rain. But we didn't do a blob watch for New England. We should probably do that. Oh, and it's clear skies, absolutely nothing. Big system over the south. Uh, Halfway turning. You can see it's halfway turning, but nothing up where I am. Up in New England, there's nothing up there. So clear skies, nothing to worry about. Uh, Nick Piccarilli, oh no, is the new Shogun series bad? I don't know. I have no idea. Tolstoy 111, thinking back further about new fiction that I read, Cold Mountain by Charles Fraser. I liked that it at the time, but would be scared to revisit it. You'll see flaws. You'll definitely see flaws. Just like Cold Mountain would be one. I would argue that Secret History, but excuse me, by Donna Tartt would be another one where it was a total magical experience when you were reading it at the time, but you'll see flaws if you go back to it. I'd be interested to see what they are. Uh, Alan says, "Can't you just hold the Kindle upside down?" No, you can't. Solve the problem immediately. If the thing had a gyroscope, you could solve the problem immediately, but it doesn't. It doesn't rotate. The Kindle Oasis does, but you don't need to worry about it with the Kindle Oasis because you've got that grip on the side. But the Kindle Basic and the Kindle Paperwhite don't rotate. Uh, Jasper Antonelli, did you like the movie The Holdovers? No, no, I didn't. I got a million people writing to me about it because there's a scene set in the Brattle Sail Loft. But the movie itself, I did not like. No, I thought it was overly mannered, very artificial, very predictable, very treacly, very condescending. Actually, to use a word that was up earlier in the chat, very condescending to the viewer. Paul Giamatti's clearly having a fun time, but I didn't understand a lot of the appeal of what I was seeing. There were elements running through that movie that I don't think I understood, and not in a good way. I didn't enjoy it. No, no, I did see it and I didn't like it. Steve Gilhool, I don't think mentioning the author should be construed as "have you read." At the very least, some people in your audience may not know the author and would appreciate the mention. You're right. You're right. Just being a little touchy. That's all. We haven't had a "have you read" question. We have mostly old friends here, so I haven't had an "have you read" question. Tolstoy 111. Hospitality is rather significant theme in the Odyssey. Yes, good and bad. Derek Green. Oh, I mentioned the author out of habit. Matt Sheridan, were you in Iran before the 1979 overthrow? Before and after? Street Medic. I normally read normal books, but every once in a while I feel the need to torture myself and read something like Joyce or Faulkner. Try to tell myself that it's a challenge, but really I'm just an idiot. Challenges like that, you don't live long enough to justify it. When there's Louis L'Amour to read, Jasper Antonelli. Speaking of hospitality, some very nice person jumped my car battery, and immediately fixed it today for free at the gas station because it stopped working suddenly. And you find people like that all the time. They're all over the place. Jay Nicole, what about Balkington in Moby Dick? Is there a novel about him? I don't know of one. Ryan, Steve, do you have any respect for like Michael Crichton's work? He gets the pop novelist label, but I found many of his books much better than Grisham, King, Patterson level. Do you have a favorite? Okay, lots to go over here. They are better. Just on a line by line, sentence by sentence construction level, they are better than the authors that you're naming. They don't have to be much better to be better than those three, but they are better than those three. Uh, but all the respect that I had for Crichton, very consciously walking in the footsteps of H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, went away when he wrote State of Fear. When he used his massive platform at the time, he was a massive author. People that know him as a dead author now will not know how big he was. And he used that massive platform to say that uh, fears about radical climate change were a hoax, that it was all a lie. He single-handedly put back public awareness and acceptance of radical climate change by a decade. Single-handedly, by himself, he did that. It was hard to respect him after that. That was a lot of serious real-world harm that was done by an author of airport books. Uh, where would we be now if he hadn't written that book? Anyway, Michael Lombardo, how does Ducks Newburyport succeed as a book for you where Ulysses doesn't? Exactly. This is the question that bothers the dude bros, is they don't understand how I can like the one and hate the other. I don't know. I mean, I'd take a whole evening to go through it, and we're stopping at 10 past the hour. The most I can say is earnestness, honesty. Ducks Newburyport is brimming with it, and Ulysses has none. Ulysses is a crapulently false novel from beginning to end. The author does not care from beginning to end. And in Ducks Newburyport, the author does. On the surface, they are similar, but that's it. Aaron, a booktube channel is no guarantee of publishing success. Lindsay Ellis's books bomb. Right, it's no guarantee of success with the book, but it might be a guarantee of getting an agent, because it's something that, and if I were to write it, like if I was to write a debut novel, there are plenty of 28-year-olds who are writing debut novels, and I fancy that my debut novel would probably be better written than a lot of them, but that doesn't matter to an agent. They're not going to read it, and they don't care. The publishing house isn't going to read it, and they don't care either. Read their emails, read their op-eds. They're barely literate. So the quality of the prose is absolutely not going to matter. What's going to matter to publicists as to whether or not to take me on as a client and take 90% of my income will be other things, the other distinguishing things that those other 28-year-olds writing debut novels don't have. And having an audience of 10,000 people on YouTube is one of those things. It wouldn't guarantee the success of the book. No, not at all. Wait, the chat jumped again here. Let's Street Medic. I loved college. When I retire, I want to go back to St. John College, but will never happen. We had a 5.1 earthquake here a couple of days ago. Arena's reading says, yes, Southern California is projected for 10 plus hours of heavy rain, 5 feet of snow in the north. I've been checking around my house every few hours to make sure no stray animals are drowning. Bless you. I love it when the people out there who are faced with these kinds of massive weather events, we're all going to face them in the next 10 years. We all are. Think about all the animals that are out there. I love it when that happens. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't think we're going to get any kind of massive, major, unprecedented event until the summer. The summer could be really, really bad, roastingly hot. I don't know what to do. There are stray cats in this neighborhood. There are raccoons in this neighborhood. I don't know what to do to help them. I have my sparrows, but they do pretty well. They take pretty good care of themselves. I also think there might be voles near here. I don't quite know how to confirm that. But anyway, Jordan Knowles, I certainly will return to housekeeping since I enjoyed Gilead. Vegan Heretics, so are you assuming that finding that copy of Rimbaud and the fact that you don't have a writing project is a coincidence and not a sign from the gods? You always say not to ignore the signs. I'm not going to write about Rimbaud. I'm not going to write fiction about Rimbaud. Not now, not ever. I'm not going to do that. Mike Jr., I just read The Sleepwalkers and loved it. Got any good World War I recommendations? Yeah, I did lots of. I did a starter kit on World War I. That'll start you off. That'll be just fine. Jasper Antonelli, the real question is, were you involved in the 1979 overthrow? No, I was not. You're thinking of Mark Richardson, who visited the Soviet Union, and when he got back on the train home, there wasn't the Soviet Union anymore. No, I was not involved. Boy, though, what a tragedy. What an absolute tragedy. Just in case you're wondering, if in case any idiot in school or at work says that one person can't change the course of history. Uh, Matt Sheridan, what was Iran like after 1979? What was different? I'm just really fascinated by that history. Everyone was afraid. After the Khomeini revolution, everyone was afraid. Even confident people who had nothing to be afraid of were afraid. Fear entered the air, it entered the atmosphere, it entered the water, it entered the food. It greeted every sunrise. It was there at every prayer. It was there at every sunset. Fear was suddenly there that hadn't been before. It had been a free country, a normal country before, which it doesn't necessarily mean a democracy. But it's a different thing when fear enters your life, when you're in a totalitarian state and fear is suddenly everywhere. That's a different thing. You don't have to live in a democracy to live without fear. And the pre-revolution Iran, I saw it nowhere. The post-revolution Iran, it was everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Very heartbreaking. Uh, Connor, now I need a 2-hour video of Steve college stories. I think you could probably infer a lot of my college stories. I was in a dormitory. There was no co-ed dorms. I was in a dormitory surrounded by corn-fed young weightlifters. I got to know lots of people. The one thing I didn't want to do in college, the one rule that I drew, was no alcohol, which was a big thing. But I saw right away, I saw in like my first month as an undergraduate, a, what abusive lengths alcohol was used by. So I just said, no, I don't want to be involved with that in any way. So I just didn't do that. Didn't hamper things much. I had a blast. Mark, speaking of Louis L'Amour, I just read Education of a Wandering Man. He counted the books he read while doing other things, waiting in line, riding the train, etc. It amounted to something like 25. Yes. Well, yes. I'm not remembering that anecdote from that book, but it's absolutely true. It's certainly the magic behind a Kindle or even your phone is just pull it out and read. Don't pull it out and scroll. Pull it out and read. It's amazing how much of a difference that makes. Tolstoy 111 is responding to Street Medic. No, there was something else here. Oh, hang on a second. Mark reminded me of your advice for people who say they have no time to read. You can make time. Louis L'Amour did. Steve does. You can too. You absolutely can. You absolutely can. I've never known it not to be true in my entire life. People say, "Oh, I just don't have the time," and I say to them, "Don't make me come over there. If you grant me access to your life, I will point out vast oceans of time that you have. You have time to read." But anyway, Mark says 25 in 1 year, by the way, obviously in addition to all the other reading he did. Kirill Pushkin says hello. Why can't I be called Kirill Pushkin? That reading guy, what happened to your bookcase of romance books in your little book room? I moved it out of the little book room because I moved the bed in the little book room. So right now, all the romance mass markets are in another bookcase, and it's not the right bookcase for them. They're triple stacked. So they're not really accessible. I need that. That's a focal point for a book change. I need to do something about that. I've got a massive book change. The little book room is getting massively rearranged next month. Tolstoy 111. I recently finished Tristram Shandy, and what was it Dr. Jonathan said about Paradise Lost? No one has ever wished it longer. Really got my fill of Uncle Toby and his hobby horse. Can't help but agree. Jasper Antonelli, I love reading about World War One. I always feel super uncomfortable saying I like to read about war, though. Well, maybe it's a gigantic world event. It's nothing uncomfortable about saying you love reading about it. Believe you me. I mean, World War One, just as a social and military phenomenon, is one thing. I love reading about World War II, and I love reading books about very specific things in World War II, specific groups, divisions, massacres, battles, crossroads, very stackpole books, pen and sword books, casemate books. I like reading books like that. Talk about concentrating. Nothing. It's you. What you're interested in is what you're interested in. You don't know explanations or apologies to anybody. Ryan, Steve, who do I have to bribe for a mystery starter kit video? I did one. I know I did one. Would love to know what works you think are the seminal works of the most important genre. I know I've done a mystery starter kit. You cannot tell me that I have not done something like that. That's crazy. I must have done one for March Mystery Madness, probably 3 different ones. There's no way I haven't done a mystery starter kit. No way. No way. Uh, let's see here. Oh, where did we go? Oh, there we go. Jasper Antonelli, did you go to college on the East Coast? I imagine it is a lot more uptight than the Midwest or the West Coast. Well, there's all sorts of conflicting critical theories about that. It's possible that I did not go to college on the East Coast. Street medic, what passes me off these days? Climate change deniers who say it can't be true because it still gets cold. I know. A member of Congress bringing a snowball into the well of the Senate. I know. Ridiculous. Andrew Salisbury, the only thing that can pull me from a good book is a live Steve stream. Thank you for the conversation. It's been wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And what a load of people. Over 100 for most of the time. We're wrapping things up now, but it was over 100 for most of the chat. That's wonderful. I thought you people would have all forgotten me. Michael Lombardo, speaking of World War One, just picked up The Greatest Day in History by Nicholas Best. Oh, where did you go? El Castillo says, what did you think of Giamatti's character in the Holdovers movie? What was I supposed to think of that character? What is that character? I, it all seems so easy. I mean, Giamatti was enjoying himself in the movie, but it all seems so easy. And did any of the character, aside from the kid, did any of the characters seem real? His character seemed least real of all. It would have his character would have needed only a costume change to walk onto the set of a Harry Potter novel. How realistic is that? How believable is that? Just anyway, that reading guy. I love physical books, but I'm still amazed how more congenial an e-reader is. It is simply better. Diehard old lovers of print and paper books. I am one myself. It feel a twinge when you say that, but it is simply better. Even changes the way I sit. I can sit more comfortably with an e-reader instead of fighting a physical book. Absolutely. Oh, every aspect of it. Every aspect of it. It's easier. It has its own light source. It has its own dictionary. It has its own encyclopedia. You can change the font size. It remembers where you are. It has its own bookmark. You can make as many notes as you want, 1,000 pages of notes if you want. It fits in your hand, and it's 1,000 books, including the one you're reading something. You're reading A, and you suddenly want B, but the dogs are on top of you, and B is downstairs and across the house. Well, B is also right there in your hand. It's it's a better mousetrap. Fans of print and paper books hate that. For a long time, I hated it too, but it is a better mousetrap. It is simply a better way to read. And keep in mind, this is the maimed, half-formed version of e-reading that the publishing world allowed to happen. Imagine how much different, how much better it would be if the publishing world hadn't been against this from almost the very beginning. If the technology had continued getting better in the way that, for instance, gaming laptops have or MacBooks have. But the, anyway, Martin S., you did a video 5 years ago called A Mystery Starter Kit. See, I thought so. There's no way. Ryan, you did a top 10. Wait, Ryan, where are you? Where are you? You did a top 10 ongoing murder mystery series, not an essentials list. Fine, good enough. Got 100 books from it. Thank you. No, I also did a starter kit. I know. Martin just said I did a starter kit. I granted it's 7,000 videos to look through, but I guarantee that I did one. There's no way I wouldn't. Street Medic, my favorite literary hero is Dr. Pangloss. Look, a star as big as the moon in daytime. Jenny Parks, a star as big as the moon in daytime. That would be Apophis 2029. Jenny Parks, yeah, but your mystery starter kit is 5 years old. Good excuse to update. Why would I update? It's still a starter kit. it's still what? So you have to start in different places now. That reading guy, are we getting regular Steve streams from now on? Well, I would think so. I wasn't sure that I would have the old muscles back, but this looks like it works. Certainly, the idea that came up earlier in this Steve stream of doing a Steve stream intentionally to counter program the Super Bowl. That sounds like a great idea. Let's see here. Jasper Antonelli, we need a new starter kit. Shinier, more abs. No, you don't. A starter kit is a starter kit. It's not my favorite picks that year. It's a starter kit. J. Scott Phillips, speaking of World War II novels, I just picked up The Monuments Men. Love the movie. Hope the book is as good. Was there a novel of Monuments Men? The one that I read was nonfiction. It's terrific. Absolutely terrific. I read a galley copy. It was I think it came out before I got back into reviewing, but the bookstore where I was working got a galley copy in the break room. Nobody ever wanted those things. So I grabbed it and read it at lunch and would loved it. Just loved it. But I thought it was nonfiction. Maybe there was a novel too. Hannah's book. So glad to see you tonight. Thank you. It was fun. This was lots and lots of fun. We're going to wrap things up. But it was lots of fun. Jenny Parks. I don't know if we can handle more of Steve's 8-pack abs. J. Scott Phillips. I hope the book goes more into how Hitler looted Europe of all those original Frazettas. Well, you definitely want to read The Rape of Europa on that subject. Monuments Men is James Patterson nonfiction. It's James Patterson history. Perfectly good, perfectly accessible. But you definitely don't want to miss a book called The Rape of Europa. Oh my, for this subject of Nazi looting. Uh, Kirill Pushkin, Steve, what do you think about Vladimir Nabokov? Do you like his books? My mother says hello to you. Well, hello to your lovely mother. I don't like Nabokov at all. The end. Sorry about that. Street Medic, hot tea is the true nectar of the gods. That reading guy. Where are you? Where are you? Is the boy in the striped pajamas worth reading? Not particularly. No, it's very very manipulative. Christina, speaking of starter kits, this is just a friendly reminder of the biblical fiction starter kit. I did that. I feel certain that I did. Did I not do biblical fiction? Did I not do that? Oh, okay. Let me jot that down. Okay. Monet Doyle, Monster in the Marsh by Carla Cassidy was a good book. Good to hear. Glad to hear it. That reading guy, it's not surprising why the book world didn't embrace e-reading right away. Book people and technology don't really go together. Yeah, and everybody's emotionally caught up in print and paper books. The books themselves are the locus of such affection, apart from their contents. They themselves are the focus of so much affection. I understand it completely. I don't mock it at all. I honor it. Of course, I have still lingering. I have thousands of books here, but there, objectively speaking, when you look at the two experiences, there's no comparison at all. E-reading is simply better. It's not better considering. It's just simply better in every way. It's, uh, let's see here. Uh, Michael Lombardo, rearranging the little book room. Beware of a William Gallagher-esque bookcase collapse. Well, no, I will be having help rearranging the little book room, and it will be. I have all sorts of plans. I want it to be just perfect for the long summer. It's rearranged one way in a way that I kind of sort of like for the short winter. But uh, where are we now? We're in early February, February 4th. So a month from now, March 4th, the temperatures are going to start going up into the mid 60s Fahrenheit, upper 60s Fahrenheit, maybe higher than that. And so from March 4th, that's March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and October, all short sleeve weather. Almost all of that, almost all of those months, that's a huge amount of the year. Almost all of those months will have days in them that are actively hot, all of them. So it needs a summer arrangement, and it's going to be elaborate, but I have lots and lots of plans. I think it's going to work really well. I couldn't do it by myself, I don't think. But there won't be any bookcase collapses, none at all. Uh, Freeman, earlier today you showed a book Congo by David Van Rooybroek. It is fantastic. Oh, all right. So you've read it. I haven't. Yeah, I got it. I got it today at a little free library, and I have not read it. I checked. I definitely have not read it. Glad to know that it's good. And while we're Michael Lombardo, while we're speaking of the William Gallagher as bookcase collapse, I'm glad that you liked that chat. I loved it. I had a blast. I was kind of hoping that he would get up above 10K subscribers from that talk, and I don't think it's happened. Wondering, I'm wondering what the problem is. Anyway, uh, that reading, guys. Speaking of starter kits, I will never stop mentioning the Western Canada Starter Kit Part 2 until it happens. Yes, that was on my docket for this year, wasn't it? Don't quite know how I would do it. Uh, Jasper Antonelli, daily Steve streams are needed and more importantly demanded. Are they really? Who would want a daily Steve stream? The Spamnator is seconding the Weston Cannon starter kit part two. Uh, Street Medic says, I wish we could get regular Steve streams, but we have to face reality. Steve is too busy solving the world's problems. The world doesn't want any solutions from me. J. Scott Phillips, no, you are correct. It is nonfiction. Yes, the Monuments Men, the book that I know is nonfiction. You'd hardly know it from the read. You'll have one sentence paragraphs. You'll have tons of dialogue. Matt Sheridan, got to go. This was a great stream. Good night, everyone. I have to go too. It's 10 past the hour. But J. Scott Phillips, Scotty, do not miss The Rape of Europa if you haven't read it. That reading guy, what about Nabokov's nonfiction? I'm not a big fan. The fiction, the nonfiction, the translation, the notes, none of it. J. Scott Phillips, we need a starter kit for tentacle romance. I wouldn't want to meet the people who would need a tentacle romance starter kit. Jasper Antonelli, speaking of your lists and mothers, my mom got extremely angry when you said Lilo and Stitch was the best sci-fi movie. Why? What possible objection could there be? Of course it is. Has she not seen it? Anyway, Monet Doyle says it's been raining all day in Georgia. Yeah, I saw that big storm on the radar. No rain for Boston. No weather of any kind. Tolstoy 111, Nabokov's memoir Speak Memory is fantastic, and his lectures from Cornell where he talks about how bad he thinks Dostoevsky is are amusing. I disagree. Ryan, but you aren't surrounded. But you aren't surrounded by your 5K ebooks. That's the only real reason. It's physical furniture that some of us feels mildly erotic. I want less eroticism. Now, as always, I want less eroticism. I have too many books. That reading guy says, hey, Steve, will you be buddy reading philosophy books with Griggs this year? I need to see you arguing about Aristotle. I don't know if it's going to happen. It seems hard to arrange. Jeff Messerman, good Lord. Jeff Messerman, just think, none of these lovely people know something's coming. Yes, indeed. Something's coming. Something is going to make you all very, very happy. Ordinarily, if Jeff Messerman is involved, you're guaranteed it's not going to make you happy. But in this case, that reading guy says, have there been any good novels written from the perspective of Jesus? Not that I know of. No. Street Medic, I need to go lay down. Yes, you do. Jenny Parks is saying goodbye. That reading guy says, books and eroticism, oxymoron. Jasper Antonelli says we need a chapter by chapter Wittgenstein read along. And then Jasper Antonelli says good night, because we're all saying good night. Because we've dropped below 100 people, and when the chat drops below 100 people, Steve is no longer interested. Besides, it's well past 10 past the hour. I do have to go. I have to wake the bean and take her out and then get a whole night's worth of work done. One particular thing, 600 words. That shouldn't be a deal breaker. It feels like a deal breaker now, but it shouldn't be a deal breaker. So I'm going to say goodnight to all of you. This was absolutely great. None of you have to worry about getting your credit cards out now because the Brattle Bookshop in Boston doesn't open until tomorrow morning. That's when you can call in credit for Steve. You can't do it now. I know you want to do it now, but you can't because they're not open tonight. You'd have to wait until tomorrow and then call in store credit for Steve. Or be banished from the next Steve stream. If I knew how to do that, I'm more likely to banish myself than I am to banish any of you. But I'm going to wrap this up. This was wonderful. As always, this was absolutely wonderful. And this will stay up as a video, so people will be able to watch it for the beginning, for the part about writing, before we get sidetracked on a million different other things. But this was wonderful. Thank you all. I will do a Steve stream as soon as I can. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe if it's tomorrow, I'm really hoping that I will have things to say about my own writing project. Really hoping this 600 words tonight, it's going to be an ingrown toenail. I'm really hoping that it doesn't derail me. But we shall see. As soon as I can, I will report back. So thank you all very much. I will see you soon. Good night, BookTube.